Bunny hop as our big-legged German here, Niels Pollitt, excuse me, decides to just stretch his legs ever so slightly. The chase on is being led here by Gijs van Hoek of Top Sport Bladeren. I like the look of Niels Pollitt, and in fact he's almost been quietly under the radar of late, despite the fact he's had some stellar results, which is why he's got the nod here. And he's a great man to have representing Katusha up the road, allowing Alexander Kristoff and his boys to just sit in perhaps a little bit. They're going to run out of that option as we get deeper into this race, and with 60.2 kilometers to go, we're less than 4 Ks away, Sean, from the Eau de Clermont, and this is the race for the approach, isn't it?
I think we will see the first selection on the Eau de Clermont back in peloton, and they will certainly have to start racing before they get to the Clermont, because position is going to be important here. So the big teams, the big favourites will make it very, very fast leading on to the Eau de Clermont, and then we will see the selection from there on. And it depends on who is up front. If there's some of the big favourites miss it, could start pushing on all the way, and we're getting closer to that point now. And the breakaway, of course, 2:22 at the moment. Katusha, it's good to have a rider out here. Anybody ever got one of the guys who was a favourite, or a guy who was hoping to do something at the end of the race? If you have a man up front, it's always a good position to be in.
Well, he's getting a good position as well for a man who measures 1 metre and 92 in his stocking feet. He's got an extraordinarily long stem as well, as you can see. I'm not quite sure what his inside leg measurement is, but believe me, he's turning it absolutely beautifully. Good as well for Lars Bohm to have an ally up the road. This is Dimitri Gruzdev, who just comes to the front in Astana's pale blue, familiar to many of you. And Andre Greipel, a lot of people were talking about Andre Greipel as an outside tip to actually take it, maybe make the steal. Well, you've got to be up front if you're going to have that opportunity. It may come, but I think it would take disaster further back. The pace of the approach is quite outstanding. Now, remember when Chris Froome fell on the cobbles in the Tour de France? Actually, he didn't, and that was the point, I think. He didn't fall on the cobbles, but he did fall because of them. The race for position, Sean, is absolutely cruel, isn't it? In situations like this, you want to be in the best place you possibly can be for the next obstacle, and it makes just wide open, benign looking roads dangerous in themselves.
Yes, well, the run in, as we can see here, it's starting to just the pace upping all the time here as we come to this vital part of the this Tour of Flanders, the Eau de Clermont, and on the front of the peloton, they're just teams starting to push on and starting to line out. We can see riders leaving gaps here. I think some riders are a bit scared because there have been so many crashes today. They are concerned, but you cannot back off at this point. You have to keep on fighting, stay in the top 20 riders, get onto the Eau de Clermont in a good position.
Wow. It is a real wrestle down there. A little descent, which is adding a little bit of pace as well, as you can see. They are going hell for leather, and everyone wants a piece of this next climb. It's interesting to see Alexander Kristoff as well, just not prepared to hide himself at all. And look at Ethics Quickstep, they've done so much of the driving. Tyler Farrar's got himself back in and up to speed as well at a moment such as this for Dimension Data. I saw him on the deck a little while ago, so he's done a great job. Terpstra also in the house. This is fantastic. What approach speeds we've got. Lars Bohm is also here to play, and Tony Martin is doing most of the leading. And here we are, big compression as they're going to make the turn. You can see them just it's almost like a ball of sardines here. It's almost indistinct, like one body. They just have to take so much care. There's a lot of street furniture around as well, well penanted, thank goodness, and they wrestle as they come in even to this modest little turn, almost a jink in the road, but a serious one still to come. Fighting to space, a lot of doors being slammed here into the corner. Are they all going to get away with it? Well, about 8, 10, 12 wide suddenly become 4 wide, and it'll be thinner than that, Sean. Classic moment, but yet more to come, surely.
Well, I think the big fight and the big race to get into the corner there, that was going to be always very important, and I think we're going to see just more and more of this just pushing, fighting for control of the front of the peloton, and we can see that there's a lot of teams just sitting and playing the play the waiting game for the moment, because still 56 kilometers to go. We can see now the pace is certainly after slowing down a lot, but what a pace they were doing coming downhill there. They must have been doing 70 plus kilometers per hour.
Unbelievable, and great that we've got such great bike handlers, and most of which of course have been sieved out. I guess if you're not, then more ill fortune will befall, I'm sure, some of those who are further up the road. And look how strung out they are right now. The pace is apparently undiminished, and you look up front and that's exactly it. They're keeping the charge on, and they want to make it into this turn and take on what will be this double punch, if you like, the Eau de Clermont and the Paterberg. Let's talk about the Eau de Clermont. Second time that they've seen this today, Sean. 11.6% as a maximum, and 1,500 meters of it are cobbled. It's a mixed surface, but the cobbles, well, they'll tell their own tale fairly soon. You can see how slow it is for those who get themselves out of position. You can come in a decent spot, you get trapped on the inside of the curve as those sail round the outside of you, and you're knocked right back, and finally the pace eases for those up front. Cancellara still up towards the front now. He's very much getting himself into a potential pouncing position as the breakaway take it on. Look how narrow it is, Sean, here. They're 1 minute and 57 further up the road.
Yes, well, we can see that advantage has come down very quickly. It was over 2 minutes. 1:57 at the moment, and the up in pace, the up in speed back in the peloton has taken down the advantage to the breakaway very quickly. Now, will we see somebody really pushing on when we get onto the cobble section of the Eau de Clermont? The peloton is already on the lower slopes. It is still on the tarmac macadam section, but this is a long one. It's Eau de Clermont, 1 kilometre 500, and it is a difficult one as you go further up. The cobbles are very, very broken up, and it can be of a one where we could see a lot of riders losing contact out of the main peloton.
Well, if you haven't seen this earlier on today, the road itself is a bit of a nightmare. It does have a crown, but you can see heavy vehicles have been up here, and so they've flattened out the edges. So in the middle there's kind of a hump, if you like, and then two flatter sides to the road. The gullies not an option because they've got barriers on them, so there's no smooth ride for anybody. This is great effort here, and it's been great to see Andre Greipel doing so well out front. The great man, one of my favourite sprinters on the planet, and as a guy really himself, he's a fascinating character. He bumped into him in Turkey last year, and we shared a lemonade. That's what I told my mum anyway. And he said, so you're the guy who screams a lot. I said, well, only when I get excited, which is quite often when you're on the road, Andre. He was quite pleased with that, thank heaven. And he ignored some of the some of the choice things I've said about him in the past, all with great affection, I assure you. 2 minutes they've got, Sean. That's a handy lead, and there's nothing they can do about it at a moment such as this, as Edvald Boasson-Hagen also comes to the front. He's on the left-hand side of the screen, right-hand side of the road, the Norwegian champion, and he's looked very, very calm as well today. Yes,
well, he's a rider, experience. He's been in there in that position before, and we can see they're taking control on the front of the peloton with some of their teammates, but also we can see Lotto here, just hanging around the front and just get up this climb, not really push it on at all, because they've got Greipel, and they will hope that this group will stay riding at this pace. That way, the only way the gap can go out front is up with the pace the peloton they're going at the moment.
Dylan van Baarle rolled down to the front of the peloton earlier on today. He's up towards the fore again. He thought about wasting some energy and then thought much better of it. And he's backed into the group here from Cannondale Pro Cycling in the lime green. And you've got to just take things at your own pace, but also you've got to take your chances when you can. And why not roll the dice now? Policing duties for some, others prepared to let them go. You've got to pick your battles, Sean. That's the crucial thing on a highly technical approach which you've got right now.
Yes, well, I think the teams we can see here, it's Ethics Quickstep who want to push on, and it's not surprising that would be the tactic, where they would try and make the race difficult here and just stretch the peloton out, and that's what they're trying to do at the moment, because the way we're climbing in the peloton here, the team that was on the front was, Lotto. They wanted to just knock it back as much as possible and just allow that breakaway to stay and to gain more of an advantage.
Stijn van den Berg stretches his legs, and the gap back to the chasers, who aren't. They're having a look at each other now. This is a danger, because if they manage to bridge over to that quality group up front, some teams are going to be alive to that. Lars Bohm doesn't know quite what to do at the moment. You can see a lot of, how can we put this, almost short-circuiting on strategy, Sean, and these are the questions that have to be answered, and correctly, if you're going to make this one stick.
Well, I think there is other teams here who will just get the call. The riders will get the call and say, you cannot allow a group of riders, 2 or 3 riders, to get away. So I think we will see more riders. If this 2-man group out front starts to pull away from the main peloton. But yeah, that is tactics. Different teams have different tactics, and they're all going to try and apply these tactics now, because getting into this 54.2 kilometres, this is where the racing will start once again.
And Rick Greipel has a long look back down the road just to see how close those who are on a mission are. For the time being, he's in a comfort zone, if you can have one. Just look at this, the chatter. If you look at the elbows and the wrists, that's where the hurt is taken first. They do pad up, sometimes double tape, and maybe do some gel inserts on the bars. And Sean, you need them on days like this, don't you?
Well, some guys, they like to have a bit of comfort, a little bit of gel under the bar tape. Other riders just go for the normal taping on the bars. Guys differ, and Tour of Flanders is the one where it's not, really that difficult on the cobbles. You don't have a lot of flat section of cobbles, so when you're going up the short climbs on the cobblestones, you're not going at a very fast rate, so it doesn't, create as much of a problem as it does in the Paris-Roubaix.
Well, they're strung out, and it looks like there's been a hiatus as they come by one of the VIP areas here, and all the VIPs are out the side of the road. They'll all go back for some refreshment in a few moments' time, something that is not in the gift of the peloton at the moment. There are the chasers, the third group, with a minute and 49. It's still a handy advantage, but with 53.9 kilometres to go on a wide open, regular kind of road, that would be a gap that was instantly bridgeable, as one of the Wanty boys has decided to go for it as well. This team is, I think, close to all of our hearts at the moment. And this is Freddie Backert, who's decided to go for it. They have this very distinctive orange bar tape. And of course, they have been wounded, as you know, with the loss of a teammate, as we've mentioned so many times, and it's great to see them still up for a fight, let's put it that way. Likewise, Orica Green, as you respond here, and Team Sky wrestling into this one and wanting not to be denied. 53.3 kilometres to go. What's the response that's been drawn? Tinkoff playing policing duties. This, of course, on behalf of Peter Sagan, who's been very anonymous for quite some time, but you suddenly see him at the side of the road, Sagan, just getting himself into shape. My goodness, what a day. It's going to be like this almost as a constant. Rolling with the punches, that's what you've got to do. We have just been up the Eau de Clermont. The Paterberg is next, then the Koppenberg, then Steenbeck-Dries, then the Teineberg, then the Kreuzberg, the Clermont once again, and then the Paterberg, and then you're allowed to run for the line. Sean, whoever designed this course and indeed thought of this race 100 editions ago, don't forget, there must have been an element of madness.
Well, I think it's always, looked at a race as being a madman's race, and a lot of the big riders, Bernardino in his time, he said, well, the Tour of Flanders is not a race. He said it's more like cyclocross, because a lot of the times we see the riders walking up. Koppenberg was the famous one, and then they introduced the Paterberg, and of course where we are now, the Eau de Clermont as well. In wet conditions, we've seen many times where riders have to dismount and just walk somewhere before they can get back on their bikes, and it's been made more difficult in the past. We must remember in the last number of years, the Koppenberg, Patersberg especially, you have to do it a number of times in the final. The Quaremont was the one where you did once and once only. Now we have to climb it 3 times, so it's become a more difficult race, and it's a one for the fans to go out there and see the riders going through so many times. It's just been come such such a big race here, and it's become a big day in Belgium. We've seen it, yesterday, today, the buzz is around. It's almost a national holiday.
This will be the last climb of our day, and so this is the first time they have taken this. We've done the Eau de Clermont now twice, but they'll only do this one twice. The Clermont will be 3 times. So here we are, the Paterberg, and it maxes rather unkindly at 20%, and you can see they've actually gone over the most difficult section already. It's only short, but it's far from sweet, Sean, this Paterberg. It is so cruel.
Well, it's a really difficult one, and when you have to race real fast to get into it, for the breakaway, they have the luxury of riding into the Patersberg and not having to push it. But we can see here, main peloton, they're racing onto that 60 kilometers per hour. So you have to, push, fight all the time to get a good position. As we take the right-hander here back in the peloton, you have to really push on to stay in good position. And then, of course, you have to get over the Patersberg.
You certainly do. There goes Peter Sagan just sailing through your pictures as well. Tom Bonin, haven't seen him for a while, but I'm expecting him to be here. Terpstra is here, so is Denix Debar. What a great result it would be for him if he comes good on this day. There can only be one winner. It almost seems cruel amongst all the cruelty that we're experiencing within this race. And just look at this. Bright sunshine. We're expecting some rain today. Well, it's likely to come this evening. We're hearing thunderstorms, but a bolt of lightning potentially has already been rung over the heads of these guys. Which of the breaks are going to be the important ones? It's an eternal question, and sometimes if you get it wrong, you can get it very wrong indeed. Save for those who've made the right choice, and they must think that all of their Christmases may have come at once. There's Peter Sagan again, just going through shoulder to shoulder with Edvald Bosenhagen as they sail by our pictures right now. 50.8 kilometres remaining of this day. It's still a long way to go, Sean.
Yes, it is a long way to go, and back in the main peloton, nobody wants to commit here. We can see, Trek securing the pace there on the front, and we can see Cancellara very much to the fore there. We can see Geraint Thomas also from Sky, and there's a little bit of just marking here. We could see the rider Stuyven actually was the one who was also on the front there for Trek. So nobody committing at the moment, nobody putting a teammate on the front and trying to split it here, but still, you must remember, still 50 kilometres out.
I think I've just seen Scott Thwaites as part of this front group as well. I say a front group, but honestly, it's spread almost down the entire length of this climb. At least they're together. But good to see the hard man who was runner-up in Samin. We remind you, the 26-year-old from Bora Aragon, also very much engaged. This will feel like a holiday for them later on, Sean, when finally they've dealt with the Paterberg. But the pace is likely to be very high. How many do you see contesting it at the end? We always talk about a handful here, and we were trying to cast our minds back to think when there was more than, let's say, 10 riders who were involved at the end. It's a huge rarity.
Well, we can see there's a lot of riders here all the time, and considering we have had a very difficult race, but the conditions are always very important. When you have a dry day, it keeps a lot of riders in very close to the end. But the next time on the Eau de Clermont, that's where Cancellara has to hit it, and can be guaranteed, like with a team of Cancellara Trek, they will commit themselves.
Clermont and Paterberg dealt with. 40 kilometres down the road, they'll do that all over again, and in the meantime they've got to take on the Koppenberg, Steenberg-Dries, the Tyenberg, the Kruiserberg, and then of course those punishing 2 climbs again. Dylan van Baarle, here he is, out and indeed making a nuisance of himself, and we like that. We like to see him engaging. He did in the Tour of Great Britain a couple of years ago, and did a fantastic job of at least getting engaged right here, right now, Sean.
Yes, well, I think the riders, they have to try and get out of the peloton, and we can see there Van Berg and Van Baarle doing exactly what they need to do, try and get out of the peloton, and they have actually done that, but their advantage is a very slim one, and that's going to be the difficult part because back in the peloton there is going to be no real slowdown from this point on, and unless you have a minute and a half, 2 minutes going on to the outer quarter mount for the last time, it's going to be difficult to see them making it over the Patersberg. And unless you can make it over the Patersberg when you have to ride out front with just 2 riders against the big teams and the big favourites coming up from behind, it's going to be a real big task for them to manage.
It's hard to how can I put this? Ring his praises too highly, but Dylan van Baarle, he's only 23 years of age, and I think youthful exuberance, that's what I thought we were going to get with Thijs Benoot today. Well, why not Dylan van Baarle? He took that stage in the Tour of Britain 2 years ago when he was just barely out of being a teenager, and he was a great talent then, and he remains one clearly today. Sprightly, he's been given the go-ahead by Cannondale to go for it. I don't think they've got any other option other than Dylan van Baarle. So for him, this is a major move to try and bridge over to these guys. He's only 56 seconds back, and I don't know, in the good company that he's in, courtesy of course, our friend from Wanty, I think he's got a chance here to actually get up here and maybe animate it a bit. He's got some good allies potentially to be formed as well. Don't discount this breakaway, Sean, as just a satellite group that are basically sacrificial lambs. It's happened before. We've had people go very, very long in this race in good company.
Yes, well, it has happened, but when you look back the last number of years, there's not a time when the breakaway has survived out front. Yes, there have been breakaways and riders being picked up in the final, and that is something that you have to work out tactically. If you can get into this into the breakaway ahead of the main big favourites, well, then you can possibly get over the major climbs before the big riders come up and get into the final in that way. And that's that is the tactic you have to work out with your team, because depending on what kind of riders you have, and we can see here in the breakaway with our 2 chasers, there's riders up here who need to get out front, because when the race comes up from behind, and it will all depend at what point they get caught. If they get caught before the Patersberg, then it's always difficult for them to hold on out there.
There we go. 49 seconds is the gap, 46 Ks remaining. I'm happy to see Stijn van den Berg up there as well for the time being. He's again another quality athlete that frankly we don't see quite too much of, or indeed as much as perhaps we should. And it's a great chance for these guys to display themselves to their own team apart from anything else. We remind you that it's still very much the early part of the season, and riders like Stijn van den Berg, who's latter part of his career, I guess you might say, but he's reminding us that he's still around, the 31-year-old. Took the Tour of Ireland, Sean, quite a few years ago now. I know that always rings large with you for natural reasons, but Gent-Wevelgem, he was 4th last year, so he can go for it. And here's André Greipel also deciding he's absolutely had enough of passengers, and he's going to have at least a think about it today. And why not? What else have Lotto Soudal got? Well, they've got Pim Likdart. They haven't got Thijs Benoot. Jurgen Roelants, of course, but André Greipel is having some fun potentially with us, Sean.
Well, I think it is time to do something here. He's in a really good position, but they're not really pushing on in this breakaway. They're riding along there. Nobody is wanting to commit and push it on, and they need to do that. So Greipel decides, well, the best thing, go out here alone, attack, and maybe another rider come with. But you have to keep on pushing. Hold on to your advantage as much as possible, and that's what Greipel is thinking about. If he can get onto the quarter mount with a comfortable lead, get to the Patersberg, and he will be hoping if he can get over the Patersberg, well then when they come up from behind, you're in a real good position to go on to the finish, because all the difficult stuff is over. But that is the concern, that the advantage is too slim.
Right now he's onto the Koppenberg, 600 metres, 11.6% maximum, but it's got 22% at its heart, and he wanted to carry as much momentum into this climb as he possibly could, and he is climbing beautifully for a fast man, for a strong man, for a big man. Greipel does a great job, and he goes for the gutter, as you can see, tries to smooth it out and draws out a response from those who are also part of the party here. Dimitri Gruzdev it is that just starts to bury himself. Gruzdev would also have a pass, don't forget, maybe working for Lars Bohm, but if he's in a decent position, then the word will come through. Just have a go for yourself right now. If you're not going to help yourself, then nobody else is going to help by the looks of things. And Andre Greipel just wanted a bit of space, I think, to take on this test right now. That's what he does. Hits the crown of the road. It's not a nice condition, this one, Sean, at all. It's got light and shade, some darker sections, as you can see, and still some damp mud, despite the sunshine we've had today.
Yes, we can see there that there is damp sections, and there's a little bit of mud on the sides. When you're out in front with a small number of riders, of course, you have, a clear road. But when you come here with the main peloton, that is going to be the danger one, that riders, start to lose momentum. And if somebody has to, put a foot down, well, then a lot of riders will end up having to walk on this one. And that's what you certainly do not want back in the group of favourites. When you come here with 40, 50 riders, you want to get a clear run of the Koppenberg at this moment in the race.
Chase is on. This is Dylan van Baarle. Looks like he's struggling, and if he's struggling now, he's going to be really struggling a little bit later. Much more equal to the task is Stijn van der Berg. Dylan starts to dig himself. Still not out of the saddle, though. Like to stay planted. There are some that do get out of the saddle to engage with it, Sean, but most tend to stay seated even when it hits 20% here.
Well, I think it's best for traction if you can stay in the saddle. Some riders do get out, but most climb these real steep gradients on the cobblestones sitting in the saddle. That's the way you get best traction.
There we are, and suddenly a bit of respite, but honestly, every single one of these climbs comes as a hammer blow, and it's a heartbreaker for many. And as you can see, these are the elite of world cycling, and so many of them, Sean, are struggling.
Well, I think it's normal at this point when you have over 200 kilometres done, the way they have been racing since early morning. A lot of riders, feeling the effects, and when you get onto this gradient, it's just this fittest will survive.
Lars Bohm looks great. Sagan out of the saddle, looking like he's starting for the first time to just suffer ever so slightly. But good to see Lars Bohm very much engaged with the party, let's put it that way. Here he comes, looking further back down. This is the group of the absolute favourites, and Peter Sagan wants to latch onto this because he knows almost instinctively, likewise Cancellara, that Lars Bohm has got some strength, and it's strength worth following and trying to replicate. There goes, of course, Edvald Bosenhagen through into the space as well. Big shakeout here, Sean.
Yes, well, there is a stretch starting to appear in the peloton. We can see a lot of the big favourites there very much to the fore. We could see Cancellara, Sagan very much close together there. Bosenhagen also there. We see Tom Bonen also going through a little bit further back, but no major gaps. I think there's a lot of riders going to end up in this leading group as we come off the Koppenberg.
There we are. Oh, we've had a backup as well, and that's some dismounts as a result. That's Puccio for Sky just trying to get himself clipped back in, but they're just going to have to start shouldering the bike and running for it. And the more that do shoulder the bike, the less chance there is for those others to get around. And we've got a stall, Sean, for the first time today.
Yes, well, I think if you're in that position in the peloton, there's always a high risk of somebody, not being able to make it. They just slip a gear, and suddenly, they have to put their foot down. And as I mentioned a moment ago, it's going to happen. And when the further you're back in the peloton, the greater the possibility of that happening is.
There we are, and it all makes for gaps, and they're starting to open up like fissures at the moment, as you can see. So we've got some pavé sectors to play with as well. Time for the favourites to show their hand and get going. And you saw Lars Bohm was the first really to reach out for glory amongst that very select group. It would be fantastic if Bohm can do a job here. Pollitt, Greipel though, Viti and Clays on your screen right now, and putting something back into the legs before they take on what is the Maria Bortstraat. 2 kilometres of pavé coming up fairly shortly.
Around for 2016, down to within 25 miles of the finish, make that 40.8 kilometres to be precise. Andre Greipel has been very, very active indeed in the last few moments, and it looks as if we're going to have a junction at the front of the leading favourites with those early breakaway contenders. And I suspect we're going to have an awful lot more activity coming up very shortly. We've had plenty of activity on Twitter. Thank you very much for your kind messages. Hashtag Home of Cycling, at DQ Sport for myself, at Carlton Kirby, for the man at the finish line. And Dan Worry has tweeted a picture of Peter Sagan's incredible Hulk helmet, and that helmet perhaps will indicate sort of mood that he might be in today. He's safely in that group. Well, earlier on today we've had a couple of crashes when the group was at its biggest, and the one coming out and missing out on this one in a big way was Demar of Flandes de Jeu, and then a little later on Greg Van Avermaet from BMC was one of several riders from that team to go down and to be injured. Shar as well, his teammate, also stayed down for quite a long while. Daniel Oss we see standing up there. He managed to get back in, and he's, well, one would expect the team leader for the BMC team at the time. But disappointment, massive disappointment for Greg Van Avermaet. BMC now, while he is in hospital receiving attention to that broken collarbone, turn their attention to his teammate Daniel Oss. Inside 40 kilometers to go, and we've had so many of you getting in touch. Mr. Bike Bowler says, with so many options for Sky, who should do the work there? Well, we're going to find out very shortly. Ian Stannard's showing plenty of interest, isn't he? And Mark Jeremy says, strap yourself in, boys. The Ronde van Vlaanderen is about to kick off. You're absolutely right. Stijn Vandenberg on the front for Edix Quickstep. Wonder what they've got in mind, Carlton.
Plenty, that's for sure, Declan. Thank you very much. Just under 40 kilometres to go of sheer hurt and hell. I can't wait, quite frankly, and neither can some others. They've started to wrestle with themselves. You just saw a few moments ago Peter Weening just sending out a warning shot, if you like. Some very big names just settling themselves in. This right now is Dylan van Baarle, who's leading an ever more select group, it seems, having managed to bridge over to some of the brave soldiers, brave souls who've been up the road for much of the day. But picking it up right now is Stijn van den Berg, and just grinding into the next of the tests. It's a pavé section. Marion Bergstraat. Immediately after that comes the Steenbeck-Dries, 700 metres. That is a climb, and in fact they're just engaged with that right now. 6.7%. Nothing too much, you might think, but it's a very rough cobbled surface, this one, as we look a little bit further down, back down the course as well, to see Ian Stannard starting to go for a long one. Sean, this may well be one of the plans at least, and it may well just stick. He's a big engine room, Ian Stannard.
Yes, well, we could see back in the what's left of the peloton, the big favourites, there was a number of attacks there some moments ago. A lot of riders, you know, just putting in an attack and to try and get out of that group of favourites. And Stannard, you know, who better to do that, because he is your real powerhouse. And with the group out front, yeah, they cannot hang about too long now.
There goes
41 seconds.
Yeah, Bob just can't stand seeing all this action going on. He's been extremely strong. In fact, I'm asking myself some questions at the moment. He's still in the dappled sunshine. Whoever it is, padded gloves as well. He's going to need them, especially grinding into this incline, tight to the barriers as he possibly can get. You can see that the cobbles right there, because of the heavy machines that have been up this road. That's the smoothest section, and the drawn response is happening right now. I'm just seeing if that's Jürgen Rollins that's on the chase up the Steenbeck-Dries, 700 metres, only a 37-metre rise, and the chase is on. It's starting to break down behind. A lot of talent, Sean. A lot of it's going to get shredded today.
Well, we can see here on the front of the peloton, you know, it's starting to stretch out, gaps starting to appear, and it is going to start to, you know, get shredded. Break up is going to be, and when somebody really puts in a big attack, well, that will just, peloton will explode totally.
Forgive me, that's of course out front, and it's our friend Dimitri Gruzdev who's just sailing into the curve right now. 38.2 kilometres to go. Who's he drawn with him? Well, a whole section, and in fact there's a regrouping here, Sean. The gap's almost been knocked out of today.
Yes, well, there is riders managed to get back in to make contact with that group, but again, when you have to get in a big chase, get back into the group, the next time you're going to pay the price, and that is going to be, you know, continued on. The moment we get onto a difficult section again, we will see losing riders big time out of this group of favourites. But the favourites are at the moment just, you know, riding along here, waiting, not getting involved, not putting their team on the front for the moment, and you can understand still 37.8 kilometres to go. It's a long ways to the finish, and everybody afraid to take it up that bit too early and commit with some of your teammates.
That's truth, Sean. We're looking at probably about 40 riders here of great quality. It's always the case, isn't it? You get this sifting of talent, and right now up towards the front of those who are still in this race, of course, Greg Van Avermaet not part of it. Bergot out as well. Chase Benoot is not here. Arnaud Demar is not here. You've got the usual mixture of strong men and quick men, and some with a little bit of both. And still we can't answer the question, who's going to win today? But Fabian Cancellara is in a great place to make it 4. But will he be allowed to? Peter Sagan just rolling to the front right now, bringing the rainbow jerseys up there. We saw, of course, Lizzie Armistead doing such a fantastic job of a world champion's performance, and it may well be Peter Sagan, who's on stellar form at the moment, does it after his exploits in Ghent-Wevelgem not that long ago, of course. Tijnenberg, 530 metres, an elevation of 35%, and Dylan van Baarle wants to pick it up. He's not done yet. I thought, to be honest, he looked a little exhausted earlier on, but not a bit of it. Stannard and Grusdev then. Stannard sails by Grusdev. Maybe that was his little rocket, but as they all do, they come down to earth, and that's exactly what's happened to Grusdev. He's out of the frame right now, but Van Baarle starts to churn it yet again. He's still eating into this. It's a horrible surface, Sean. It's broken. It's gnarly, but so are these riders, and they're going for it.
Yes, well, they are committed. They're in a position. 50 seconds. It's a nice advantage, and if it continues as it is back in the peloton of chasers, they're not really pushing on here. Stannard, of course, he is in the position now where he has to try and make it across to the number of riders out in front. But again, we can see back in that peloton, it's a little bit of a downtime for the moment, but it cannot go on for too much longer.
This is another chasing group you're looking at right now. They're broken all down the mountain, and it's hard to figure, to be honest, which is going to be the move that actually makes it. But there's so many good riders here, including Martin Weinens, of course. 36.5 kilometres to go, 50 seconds the gap back to the fourth group, 1:14. They are group, Sean, and they may be significant here as they almost tag the camera bike and are forced to move to one side. Oh, goodness me. Well, they do make it by, and make it by safely, but Trek also in the house, and Tinkoff don't want to be denied. Not necessarily all about Sagan, but some hard work to do, and you can see what a grind it is as Stein de Volder, one of the greatest men to grace the cobbles, is still engaged today in the hurt, of which there's 36.3 kilometres left of it, Sean. It's never ending.
Well, it's a long one, and at the very end of this race, that's where it gets more difficult. Combination of kilometres, time on the bike, and this is the most difficult part because the hills come very close together, and we can see a group trying to get out of this main group, and that's what we're going to see. Some riders tactically they want to move on, get out of the main peloton, and we've just seen a second chasing group form at the moment.
Rollins looks spent as we catch up with the remainder of this group. Just got past Mesgets, and there is Sepp van Mark, the eternal heartbreak, I'm afraid, of Sepp van Mark. Will it go on? Well, we'll see how he manages to build something out of this one. The Tijnenberg, by the way, is said to be Tom Bonen's favourite climb. He's obviously a sucker for punishment. He always seems to go well on it. I think he just likes the fact that others seem to suffer more. But then again, we'll see whether Tom can get himself back together. Ethics Quickstep, I think, are possibly in the hands of Stiebar and Terpstra. They did a lot of work earlier on, Sean, Ethics Quickstep. Did they do too much?
Well, I think they did a lot of work in the earlier part. They made the race very difficult, certainly, but they also, I think you're going to pay the price. You're going to accept that if you put a lot of riders in the front and ride for many kilometres. But it's going to be a one now. Can some of the riders finish it off? And it's certainly made the race really difficult, and we're seeing the results of that. Lots of small groups getting out of the front end of the peloton. So that tells you maybe the big favourites haven't got as many teammates around them because the race has been difficult earlier on, and it's Ethics Quickstep who have contributed quite a lot to that.
Very much so. And just looking back down and through this group, and they all, well, calling for relays, Cancellara. Come on, let's all do some work and make this one stick. Well, Cancellara's good at this sort of thing, and he's good at drawing effort from other teams, and he seems to be a sort of patriarch of cycling. I've seen Nicky Terpstra in a very good place as well. The Dutch champion, the Netherlands champion, also looking reasonably fresh. But this group that we're focusing on right now, Sean, with Cancellara, with, of course, Peter Sagan, it's almost dangerous because of the level of talent that's within it.
Well, it's always
they're dangerous to each other, I mean.
Well, it's always, yes, a problem. Who is going to, take up the chase? The favourites themselves, do they start to ride as well? Do they just allow the teammates to do it? And we could see, for Cancellara, Stein de Volder there, who's the one who's trying to keep this group moving along. The advantages are not out of control at the moment, but it's coming to the point now where they have to show their hand. Cancellara will have to really push on in the next difficult sections where it's on the climbs. He has to try and open up this race. It is still bridgeable. We've seen Cancellara of very recent. He can ride across through groups at such a rate, but he is going to have to at some points as we get to 34 kilometers to go, it's still possible, because there is quite a bit of kilometres, quite a bit of road to be covered yet.
Pollitt, Van Hoek, and of course Stannard, and check this out, goes straight round, has a look into the faces and said, who's capable of coming with me? And it's Pollitt. Stannard is on a mighty day today, Sean. This is great.
Well, it's a difficult one, because he is having a real difficult ride to get across to the front group here, the breakaway, and that is going to take a lot out of him. It's going to really make him pay for it in the end. He has to be really on a super day, right across, if he gets across to that first group, and then to have enough. But as we can see here, this group is coming up with Cancellara and the other favourites, so not possible for Stannard to hit it across quickly.
Well, with the pace as it is today, you get the feeling that you're going to run out of personnel ultimately, and then it's going to be a real star selection. Stellar, you might say. And when you look at this group that's just approaching right now, they still look easy and within themselves. Cancellara is about to lose his last remaining soldier, if you like, that's been engaged in the trenches with him today. Little toot on the water, almost as an excuse for not engaging too much hard work. Terpstra sails by. Been impressed by Terpstra and Lars Bohm today. And I am cycling as well. I'm waiting to see if Henrik Hauster's still in the house today. Old stager that he is, 33 years of age I think he is right now, as we hit the 33.3 kilometres remaining. My goodness, a minute and 5 now between the lead and the secondary group after that little regroupement, Sean.
Yes, and we can see there, there's groups everywhere on the road at the moment. The groups trying to chase, trying to make it back in here. We can see there, I think there's a group coming up from behind here that's going to join this Cancellara group. But it's going to be a difficult one. When you have to make a chase after getting dropped out, it's only a matter of time. The next one, you're going to be out the rear door once again.
What a day. And we've still got over 30 kilometres of it left. Enthralling. So the favourites are now starting to look at each other, and the pace has certainly been knocked out, Sean. It's still reasonably high considering how deep we're into a very long day, and you can see that writ large from this aerial view. Everyone's going to be tired, even the greats, Sean, but somebody is going to be have an advantage. It's not necessarily teammates. This is where you're going to have to be very, very clever. Up goes the hand, as you saw, of Damien Gaudin from AG2 à la Mondiale. Only 56 seconds. We're going to have it coming together. I've got a feeling, Sean, we might have quite a big group contesting the very last today.
I'm doubtful of that, because I think you can see the way the riders are, racing at the moment. There's a lot of riders, I think, they are quite tired, and we can see, they're just waiting, and they're not committing. So it's an indication, I think, that the very fast racing, the very aggressive racing in the earlier part of the race is starting to take its toll, and the moment we see an attack from the bigger riders here, then I think this group will be all over the place once again. And we have seen here, there's riders chasing to get back in, small groups of riders, losing contact, and that is going to be a one where you can live doing that for so long.
We have got a big attack, and it's from two big names. It's Kwiatkowski, as you can see, who's got the rainbow accents to his jersey. The jersey he used to wear, the World Champions jersey, is on the back of Peter Sagan, and they've got company here. Well, Martin Wynants and Sepp van Mark have been working extremely well today, despite all kinds of trauma. And with 31.8 to go, it's the first big roll of the dice by some very big names, Sean. This is serious.
Yes, well, with Sagan, Kwiatkowski, and of course Sepp van Mark, you cannot allow those guys to get much of an advantage. And the other riders who are thinking of doing something in this Tour of Flanders, they have to get a move, and you have to just wait for the opportunity. If you're right on the flat, of course you carry on, you carry everybody back with you in this group. But the moment you can get a little bit of a climb on the cobblestones, that's where you can hit it.
This is the danger. Alarm bells are going off, as you can see, and they're staying with it. And that's Daniel Oss, who's just bridging, and Cancellara, I think, is engaged. He does not want this to drift away at a moment such as this. He can't afford it, Sean.
No, you cannot allow this group to get too much of an advantage. But again, depending on how you're feeling, if you're in good shape, then you can say, well, I can just allow these fellas to take 15, 20 seconds, 25 seconds of advantage. And the moment it gets really difficult to terrain, well, then you can ride across to them. And Cancellara is the one who can do that, and we've seen him do it before. But again, you never know, he may be starting to pay the price for the very difficult day they've had today.
Big hairpin. It's going to have to be taken carefully, and they do take a hexagon all the way through it, as you can see, flatten themselves out and go for it again. Some very, very tired legs, and indeed minds, with 30.5 kilometers to go. 45 seconds is the gap right now. Kwiatkowski pushes on. Staying with him is Peter Sagan, and of course Sepp van Mark, leggy, rangy character, does a Sagan, readjusts himself because he wasn't too comfortable. I'm not surprised. He's got top tube trauma. Sagan stays with it. I'm just looking to see who's trying to bridge. Now, Cancellara did think about it, but has decided that there's a bigger group that he can sit in with at the moment. Doesn't want to engage too much with 30 kilometers to go, but there's definitely a big, big call being made here. Who's going to be wise to it? Is that Lars Bohm that's been tempted out as well? The Skyman's not going to help out, is he? Yes, he is, just for the time being, but only very, very briefly. And Wanty also engaged. So proud of that team to have picked themselves up and still playing the game with us right now. It is cat and mouse, and it's Kwiatkowski, Van Mark, and of course right in the middle of that sandwich is our world champion. What a fantastic trio we've got right now. It's what we needed, Sean, at this moment.
Well, yes, certainly the race was starting to get a little bit boring, considering we had such an exciting earlier part, and that is always very difficult for the riders to continue at the pace they were going in the very early part of the race today. So it was inevitable there were going to be a bit of a downtime, but now Sagan, Kwiatkowski, Van Mark has committed herself. We also see another group coming across. There was a Sky rider there. It looked like Geraint Thomas was a rider from Astana. So yes, Sky are starting to, again, numbers, you can do that, and we did talk about that in the earlier part of the day. Ethics Quick Step, they had a lot of riders, but of course they committed and they did a lot of riding. I think they've paid for that now, but Sky, they still have a number of riders still with a great shout in this race.
I think so. I wasn't even sure if it wasn't Luke Rowe, to be honest. He's been in very combative mood of late, and we'll see whether he delivers today. The main body of the peloton is now a minute adrift, so it's a good move. They're trying to bridge to these guys, where we find still turning the pedals. Dylan van Baarle as we come to the Kreuzberg, maximum 9%. It's looming large, Sean. Once we've dealt with this, we've only got the Eau de Clermont and the Paterberg before we start to run for the line. T1 seconds, the gap to the Sagan chasing group, and as you can see, About 25 seconds further back, some other big names, including Fabian Cancellara, who thought about making the bridge and is being lent on at the moment. Everyone else anchors within this group, as Sagan's being allowed a little bit of free rein, you might think, but he's having to work very, very hard, along with Kwiatkowski and also Sepp van Mark. Stein is also here, as you can see, but that is Cancellara. Is he being lent on too heavily? And they're just beginning to suffer as Lars Bohm, who was very, very busy at the top of the day. Elix Quickstep, this group also then with Tom Bonen, just about 3 riders ahead of him. There is Edvald Bosenhagen also in here, and I think Heinrich Hausler is still here for I Am Cycling. Meanwhile, these are the chasers, and what a chase group it is. Sagan, Van Mark, and of course Kwiatkowski. Now, if they manage to bridge, and it's only 35 seconds, they will find up the road Andre Greipel, who's doing an amazing job today, Stijn van der Berg from Etix Quickstep, Erviti from Movistar, and Van Hoek from Topsport Bladeren, part of the initial breakaway, and Claes from Wanty Group Gobert is also there. A lot of hurt has been put down. That's the design. That's the idea of those up front. I didn't think, Sean, that many of those who are finding themselves at the moment in that very select group up front thought they'd be allowed to stay out there for such a long time. It's been big names staring at each other, and I think they may have all stared each other into the abyss, I think.
To a difficult situation now, especially for Cancellara, but also we can see that Christoph is here, and he still has 2 teammates with him here in the group, so we have to see some of them making the move in the next difficult sections of this race. But the 3 riders, Sagan, Kwiatkowski, Van Mark, they're in a real good position because they're eating into the advantage of the breakaway out front, the leaders on the road, and we can see the group Cancellara going to a minute at the moment, so it all depends how good Cancellara is, how good Christoph is. You know, if they can attack on the Eau de Quaremont, well, you know, this advantage is possible to rectify, but again, the question is how good they are.
Time is starting to run out. Dylan van Baarle of Cannondale is still also part of that group. Apologies for not mentioning him. And so this is De Volder working so hard, and Cancellara, I think he's going to have to thank his entire team, but he's got to deliver. There is Edvald Bosenhagen as well, just slotted in behind Cancellara. It's almost like there's a tow rope between the pair of them for the time being. Astana still have options. They've got 3 or 4 teammates here, but is it all for what looks like a flagging Lars Bohm? We wait to see. They've got other fish to fry, of course. Liu Vestra also 26.3 kilometres to go, and there's a change of pace, and it's Astana that decide to engage with it, Sean.
Yes, well, I think they realise also some of the teams will maybe alone Trek Segafredo to do all the pulling on the front, and we can see you know, they are just struggling because they haven't got you know, enough men up in this front group with Cancellara, and we can see now they're losing the last man, Stijn van der Voorde, that looks like is going to go out the rear door, so they need some other teams, and the other teams realise as well the group out front with Sagan, Kwiatkowski, Van Mark, that is the one they're concerned about because they are pulling away all the time.
So they've still got some crucial climbs to come, the Eau de Claremont and the Paderberg. Now that's that double kicker, Sean, that's really going to kick, I think, this breakaway group. The question is, can this trio manage to deliver? To my mind, the man who's in the best position out of them is Sepp van Mark. He hasn't taken too many turns on the front, leaving it to Sagan and Kwiatkowski, who seem happy in each other's company and indeed sharing the load for the time being.
Yes, well, I think Sepp van Mark is contributing. We can see him, he may have missed some turns, but still he is contributing quite a bit, and he's not going to get a free ride here from the other 2 riders, but Sepp van Mark, he looked to be in difficulty. When we see Kwiatkowski attacking with Peter Sagan in the wheel, he was struggling to make it onto the 2 of them, so I think maybe he's starting also to feel the pressures of this race, the difficult race it has been all day.
There are riders here that don't want to guide quick men to the line, and of course Greipel and the likes of Kwiatkowski and of course Sagan. Greipel would be the obvious choice if it was an out-and-out sprint, but having put in so much effort today to stay out for much of the day, Greipel's got to be limited in terms of what he can deliver late on. It's down to those who are happier climbing, Sean, to impose themselves, and I suspect that's exactly what we're going to see as we head to the Kwaremont and the Paderberg again. We'll be there, by the way, in about 8 kilometres time. We're going to be on the Eau de Kwaremont when the ticker says 16.7, and then the Paderberg with 13.2. Once they've dealt with that, finally they can allow themselves to dream of glory, Sean. Are we going to find it from what is now a rapidly ascending, reassembling group here?
Well, the problem is now when they get to this group, of course, the Eau de Kwaremont will be the one where you can do the damage once again, and that will be 16.7 to the finish. So there's a bit to go to get onto that really selective section of the race. And who is going to do the riding here? Sagan, if he continues on riding, and Kwiatkowski, for example, with everybody else in tow, that is going to be the difficult one. And of course we can see the group behind it is starting to close as well, so certainly you cannot count the guys back in that group of Cancellara out of it yet.
Kwiatkowski took the E3, we remind you. Gent Wevelgem going the way of Peter Sagan. They run up in the E3, of course, so they've been in each other's pockets, I think it's fair to say, for quite some time, and they come and do the pacing right now. I think this is to shake out Andre Greipel. They're not quite sure about what kind of condition he's in, and Sagan wants to know. He has a look back, and he looks back again to see whether Andre Greipel is starting to suffer, and it's Sepp van Mark that picks it up right now with Kwiatkowski tight in on his wheel, and there is Sagan as well. The Kwaremont announced by its own beer. It's got its own branding, and in fact the percentage matches the average for it. There we are. Well, you'd expect that, I guess, from a wily brewer. 36 seconds back, this group, including Lars Bohm and a pretty established team. He's got 4 riders with him who are strong and can impose themselves, but will they be allowed to? A couple of from Trek, of course, one of whom is Fabian Cancellara, who's been leaning on his teammates, but soon he's going to have to be required to bridge that gap himself. 28 seconds with 22.5 to go. That's doable for Cancellara, but can he possibly eat into the gap and then push on, Sean? That's the question. He's about P6 in this chase group right now. Yes,
well, I think he's in a perfect position at the moment. We can see Katusha getting involved in the chase, Astan are getting involved, Stein de Voldre has made it back. We did see him, it looked like it was game over for him because he started to lose on that little drag. He started to lose contact, but he's after fighting his way back in, and again committed 100%. 27 seconds at the moment for that group of Cancellara. So on the Eau de Kwaremont, if Cancellara can put up the show that he's done in the past on the Kwaremont, well then it is certainly bridgeable.
Here we go. Sagan, Van den Berg, Greipel, Van Mark. If you just stop there, you'd think they've got a great chance, but you add in Kwiatkowski, Van Baal, Aviti, Claes. This is quality, Sean, and that's the problem of those who are chasing. They're not hanging around. They're trying to close this gap down. Yes, well, we can see here this group of riders are getting, I think, getting going faster. We did see for a while, to get them organised, it wasn't happening, but now they're really moving at a fast pace, and the ticker is telling us 25 seconds for the moment. But up front, on the Eau de Kwaremont, it depends on how good Sagan is, Kwiatkowski, Van Mark, of course, and is there somebody else who have been out there in the break? Van den Berg has been out there for a while as well. He's a rider that has been in the final of this Tour of Flanders a number of years ago. So it's going to be the battle now, against Cancellara to make it across. Will he be able to do that? That is the question. Gap just extends ever so slightly by 3 seconds after they'd had sight of them. I think they eased up. .5 kilometres to go, and it's Peter Sagan that takes on the duty. Andre Greipel just gets out of the saddle trying to stay with these guys. Closest to Sagan is Dylan Van Baal. Still looks reasonably comfortable considering the amount of work that he's done today. I think it'd suit Van Baal to start shaking out a few of the quick men here, but it's hard when you're faced with the greatness, not suggesting that he's not part of that vanguard. But names like Sagan, names like Kwiatkowski, they've been at the top of the podium, top of all lists for quite some time, and in fact have managed to find a great deal of success of late, and they've got less than 20 kilometres to go now, and it's 27 seconds the gap, and we're starting to head for our big climbs. So introduce yourselves, why don't you, to the Eau de Clermont. These are the approaches, the footlands, Sean. They're going to make the turn, and then they're going to test themselves, and I suspect they're going to test this group as well.
Yes, well, I think we will see a test in both groups. You know, this group, they cannot afford to hang around at all. They have to continue on working, and you know, what more than a better place on the Quaramount if Sagan and you know the rest of the guys who are in this leading group, you know, are feeling good. Well, they're going to have to try and make a selection and split this group once again. And the same goes for back in that group of chasers with Cancellara. We did see Bowen as well, was very much to the front there.
Here we go then. We're turned into hell. We've turned themselves inside out as well, they feel like. There's been several loops. It's spelt doom for plenty. And right now it's about taking on this for the last time, this double punch. The Eau de Clermont beckons, after it the Paterberg, and then once you've dealt with that, the very last nasty spiteful climb, there's still 13.2 kilometres of open road with some descents as well, where the likes of Cancellara can break the hearts of all of those around him. He sits at 29 seconds at the moment, and he's been saving his energy. Unlike these guys, they've imposed themselves, Sean. I don't think they had that much choice in it, some of them. Maybe sent up the road as speculative riders, but now all of a sudden find themselves with a great possibility of glory.
Yes, well, I think the riders who have been up in the earlier break, and certainly the riders that have come across, like Greipel, Van Baal, you know, they have managed to get into a real good position here. Vandenberg, of course, as well, and he's the one from Ethics Quickstep. After all the work they have done, you know, to have him up here, it's a good situation for them. But back in the group as well, let's not forget Christoph as well. He's been, you know, very, very quiet today. The team has, you know, been committed now for quite a while, so he must be feeling good. And you know, will they be capable of, you know, getting out of this group, making it across that group of Sagan, Kwiatkowski? You know, 28 seconds at the moment. It is possible, but they will have to do it on the outer Quaramount.
So we've got Cancellara here, we've got Geraint Thomas, we've got plenty of others as well, including, of course, Edvald Bosenhagen. It's a group of class, but unfortunately for them, top of the class at the moment is Peter Sagan, and he's 26 seconds up the road, and he's about to take on the Eau de Clermont. He looks nice and relaxed, maybe pensive as well, though, into the mix. 25 seconds, Sean. That doesn't sound like much, but with the firepower that they've got to issue here, I suspect that we may hear some cannons being shot back down the valley. They're on to the cobbles right now, and they've got to go for this. They've got no choice. They've got to go all in.
Yes, well, we can see here Sagan is the one who's been securing the pace before we got onto the cobbles for quite a while. You know, everybody else just wants to follow, and we can see there's Kwiatkowski who is following, then Van Mark, and they are the riders, the three riders who have come across of late, and they are the freshest ones you would expect. And then you look at Vandenberg, he's made a big effort out front, but the guys who have been out there for longer, I think they're going to start paying the price here on this Quaramount, and if not, certainly on the Patersberg, the final one, because the steepness there will start catching out some of those riders that have been out for a long time.
Greipel is suffering at the back of this group. You can see some spaces opening up, and Greipel is struggling to stay on board. Camera switches rather cruelly, and you'll wait to see him come round the corner with his red livery jersey, and we wait and we wait and we wait. Oh, and Greipel's popped, I'm afraid. Oh, and he's been reabsorbed, and here they come. Everybody's there. Greipel goes backwards and Cancellara goes forwards. You've got to pick your moment and then go for it, and what a superb piece of timing that has been by Cancellara. 17.4 kilometres to go. What a time to impose yourself. The Paterberg beckons after this, and Sagan, I think, knows he's got company, an elevated company, as well as Nicky Terpstra also joins the fun. This is great.
Yes, we can see Cancellara, he's just, you know, lit the torch, as they say. We can see that Nicky Terpstra is trying to follow on. We can see Geraint Thomas also there, so it's going to be...
Oh, look at him go!
He goes by, he just rides by everybody, and This is going to be a horrible time for some, but great for others. And if you're in Cancellara's position, if you're feeling that way, well, then it's a great feeling.
One after the other after the other. Cancellara is eating up the break, and right now he's having a snack on absolutely everybody. Look at this. He's managed to find 5, 6, 7 bike links from those around him. Gives a cursory glance back, saying, what's back there? Human beings. Well, this is a phenomenal effort by this man, chasing on and trying to keep in touch Movistar. I think it was Sutterlin actually, but anyway, out front there is Sagan with Van Mark. Is Van Mark going to be what? Well, in this scenario, he's always finished second. He'd like to come and beat Peter Sagan and add to his list of seconds right now. But one man who could well break their hearts and finish top deck yet again, and in fact become the first man ever to win 4. And he's just hove into view. He's out of. He's in the shadows at the moment. He's threading the shortest route through this, and first man to pop out of that bushel there, it's Fabian Cancellara, and here he comes, Sean. He's on a mission. He can't afford to do anything else other than turn those pedals, and everyone else, well, the alarm bells have gone. I think that's Tom Bonan that's chasing in, by the way, and just behind him is Nicky Terpstra as well. This is phenomenal stuff. What a drive by Cancellara. He's going for it. He wants 4, Sean. Will he get it?
Well, he's going to have a difficult one. We can see, yeah, he's quite a bit of ground to make up on the 2 leaders, Van Mark and Peter Sagan. But we can see there, Ethics Quickstep pushing on. It looked like Stein Vandenberg, who was, is really digging in, trying to get Terpstra across to get onto the wheel of Fabian Cancellara.
I think you're right, and there is Peter Sagan with Sepp Van Mark. Now, he knows there's trouble behind, and he knows he's got to go for it. Takes a drink. You can see the pace he's taking as well, just bangs into his hand, and here's Cancellara. The fans gracefully just moving their arms out of the way for the great man to come through, and he will be the greatest, Sean, of this race with 4 victories. Nobody's ever done it before. He's got to beat these 2 guys, though. That's his problem.
Yes, well, that is going to be the problem. As we can see there, the riders are making it across the Ethics Quickstep, just starting to join up with Cancellara, and if that happens, well, then there will be a little bit of downtime. Who's going to do the chasing? But Cancellara's continuing, and he's going to have a difficult one, because he's only going to get across on the Patersberg climb, and that is always going to pay, because when you get to there with Sagan, it's going to be difficult for Cancellara to ride on and try and get rid of Sagan Van Mark, and that's what he needs to do, because he cannot take Sagan to the sprint. So it's becoming a difficult one for Cancellara at the moment. So
Stein Vandenberg it is, leading Nicky Terpstra, as you can see, and there I'm afraid is Dylan van Baarle. Brave effort by him, but he's amongst others, including Lars Bohm here, as you can see, and likewise Zdenek Zdibar is also here. This is Kwiatkowski as Dylan van Baarle just beds into this group. Also bouncing there, Geraint Thomas. No sign of Luke Rowe just for the time being. 15.8 kilometres to go, and they're going to make it back over here. They're going to make it back, and this is going to become a fighting quartet. Now, was it all in too early? That's the question for Cancellara, or does he just want help? As simple as that. With still 15 kilometres to go, I think this is clever stuff by Cancellara, Sean.
Well, I'm not too sure. Will the riders that are joining up with him, continue or be able to chase? That is the question now. And we can see there Viti, and he is being out there all day. Kleiss also have been in the chase for a long time. So those riders, I think, are getting pretty much at the end of their energy. So it's going to be up to the Ethics Quickstep rider. We've seen him in the past. Will he be able to contribute Terpstra with Cancellara to make it across here? Because the advantage, I think, it's a substantial one at the moment.
Oh, they're arguing with each other, and Cancellara is shaking his head, and the gap goes out only by a solitary second to 13 seconds. But they've got to sort out their strategy, Sean. It's always a difficult thing to form an alliance, which is going to be torn up in 14 kilometres time.
Well, of course, when you have difficulty following Cancellara on the previous time, the outer Quaramount, then you're a little bit concerned to ride with Cancellara here, and that is Nicky Terpstra's, I think, concern. If you ride, really 100%, then on the next climb, the Patersberg, Cancellara can hit you once again and try and make it across to the 2. So it is going to be a bit of a cat and mouse, I think, in this chase away between Terpstra and Cancellara.
Nervous moments on the descent here. When roads are dry, they get dusty, and that could be equally as slippery as if they were were wet and muddy, and there's the gap for you. It's a tenuous one, but it's out to 14 seconds, Sean. He's found a couple of seconds, Sagan, and at the moment it is he that is leading Sepp van Mark as they come into town. Sepp van Mark not able to copy the aero position of Peter Sagan. I don't think he wants to. He's staying there and freewheeling behind him. It's Sagan that's just pedaling on just for the time being. 14 seconds, 13.8 k's to go. Final climb then, the Paterberg is beckoning, and here we go. Get up this, and then you can start thinking about your run for home, but this is a horrible test, Sean, so late in the day.
Yes, well, this is the killer one at the end of the very difficult day. The gradient, as you can see, you know, it's 20%, not a long one, 360 metres, but it feels like it goes on forever. And now the question is, you know, back in that chasing group, Cancellara, how much has he got? Will he be able to, you know, really put in a big effort on this one and try and make it across? He needs to try and get rid of the two chasers because they're not going to work. I don't think Erviti is going to last too long, but can Niki Terpstra cling on to Cancellara?
Coming to the fore goes Sepp van Mark, and he's decided to offer Peter Sagan a little bit of assistance here, but more than that, I think he needs to shake him out. He needs to shake him off and hopefully just do something. But Sagan sails alongside as if to prove that he's still got what he takes, and he's delivering the power. He stays seated and meted, and look at this. He is absolutely ripping up this climb. If Sagan gets to the end, this could be the ultimate shootout. We'll wait and see. Van Mark is going backwards. He's going into the clutches of Cancellara, as you can see. Terpstra's also starting to struggle, and Sagan has gone here. Is this going to be the supreme solo? Are we going to see a double world champion winning day after Armistead did it in the women's race? Will Sagan do it here? 30.1 to go. He rounds that difficult section. He's been over the hardest bit. Now can he sustain it all the way to the line? Big question.
Yes, it's going to be a big ask because Cancellara is coming up very quickly to join up with Sepp van Mark, and this is going to be the difficult one maybe for Sagan, because the two, if Van Mark can, you know, contribute in the chase with Cancellara, well, then it's going to be really difficult for Sagan to stay out there. And we know that, you know, the qualities of Cancellara, time trialing, that is his real forte point. So for Sagan, he is going to have to put in a big effort to hold off the two.
And look who is here. Lars Boehm's made it in, I believe. Dylan van Baarle also hanging on, but Sagan, supreme at descending, as you know, is going for this. 15 seconds he's got on Cancellara at the moment. He's going to need all of that. 12.7 is the kilometres to go. 30 seconds back, though, the other group. Well, we always say that the rule of thumb is a minute for every 10 Ks if you're going to catch a break. But if it's a one-man break, he's totally determined. It is, of course, Peter Sagan. If he adds this to his rainbow jersey, this will ensure his place, as if he wasn't there already, amongst the absolute greats. They used to talk about the Sagan era, and then it kind of went dark a little bit until he won the World Championship. He's now started picking up results, and this would be, Sean, an amazing monument if he manages to pull this off. He's only got 12 seconds though of advantage. That's a huge ask, even for a mighty rider such as Peter Sagan. He's going for it, Sean.
Well, yes, you've got to go for it. You know, you just have to pull every bit of energy out there and try and hold on to this slender lead. 14 seconds, it is growing, and now it's a question of freshness. How fresh is Cancellara? How fresh is Peter Sagan? And of course, Peter Sagan, you know, he has committed quite early. He's been out there for longer than Cancellara, and we can see Cancellara, you know, he's going to get into the time trial mode, but again, will he be able to, you know, claw back? 12 seconds, it sounds nothing, but at this point, after such a difficult race, you know, it's so difficult to, you know, close down 50 metres, not alone, you know, 12 or 13 seconds.
Let's not forget that Sepp van Mark and Cancellara have been together before.
Well, they have been together before, and I'm not sure if Sepp van Mark, he has really suffered. We could see on the Patersberg, you know, he's just not able to follow Peter Sagan, so he's getting very much to the end of his energy as well. If he rides with Cancellara, well then, yeah, maybe they can join up with Sagan, and if he can play his cards right, possibly he could do something, but all depend how he's feeling. And if the group from behind is coming up, that might, you know, push him to ride, because the place on the podium is so important for a Belgium. Even to get, you know, in the top three in this race, it's of major importance. Van
Mark came into the Roubaix Velodrome with Cancellara a few years ago, and all bets, of course, were on Sepp van Mark. He knows the track. It should have been his day. It wasn't his day. That's going to be going through his mind right now, Sean.
Yes, well, of course, he knows well, if he rides with Cancellara, and then it's going to be very difficult for him to do anything in the sprint if you contribute 100%. But he might, just start taking some turns on the front. Again, it depends on the situation. We have to wait and see what's happening behind, because he will be made very much aware of what's happening. And if there's a group coming up, that's where Seb Van Mark will start to panic, and that's where he maybe starts working with Cancellara to just hold out and be guaranteed a place on the podium.
19 seconds, it was 12 before he took on the descent, and this is Peter Sagan. He's got his arms, his hands, poppy paw styly, as you can see out front. He's got himself into a time trialing position. No tri-bars here, but he's invisibly holding on to them, as you can see. And he's holding on to an advantage. 21 seconds he's got now, with 9.4 kilometres to go. Can he do it, Sean?
Well, it's looking really good at the moment. So he seems to be pulling out the advantage, although he's changing very quickly there. But again, it is growing in the right direction for Peter Sagan. It looks like that, yes. He is not struggling to hold on to
look at this. Van Mark does not want to offer up the chase, and Cancellara rolls through and begrudgingly takes it on. Cancellara, of course, aware that Van Mark has got a decent finish on him as well. He plays cagey occasionally, Van Mark. He's been beaten in the past, of course, as you know, at Roubaix by Cancellara. But this is Sagan. He's got 20 seconds now. Is it enough? 19 now. The gap's starting to come down. 18. Oh, this is almost cruel, Sean. Does he want them to join him and then go for a shootout to the line?
Well, I think Cancellara's giving his all. Everybody's giving their all there. Certainly Sagan. He has to, just dig deep here. Cancellara also, we can see here, really, just giving it everything, and 19 seconds at the moment. They can see him out in front, but 19 seconds at this point is a difficult one. We can see the group chasing the two riders here on our screen. They are at 58 seconds, so that advantage for the Cancellara Van Mark group is quite sufficient to go on, and that will be the interesting one, because Van Mark, he's going to contribute as least as possible. And we can see there, for the moment, he's not doing anything with Cancellara at all. 17
seconds now with 8.3. 16 seconds. By my reckoning, he's going to get caught with about 3 to go if this rate continues to tumble. He may well have something left, Sagan, but Cancellara is in a phenomenal position. His last season, don't forget. We've been following Fabien on Eurosport, your home of cycling, for quite some time. Right now, it may well be at the line. He's not following anybody. 17 seconds, it's holding with 8 kilometres to go. Sagan digs again.
Yes, and we can see there, Seb Van Mark is starting to do his turn on the front with Cancellara, so that can be the reason for the advantage, maybe to come down a little bit. Of course, we're chopping back and forth, and we can see Cancellara's on the front quite a lot when we come back to the two of them. But certainly Van Mark is doing, he's doing some turns on the front. I think Cancellara's doing the majority of it, but still, it helps a lot when you have a rider with you that takes it up for a couple of 100 metres and keeps the pace. A little bit of recovery, it's so important at this point in the race.
Lars Bohm, Luke Rowe is indeed here. Geraint Thomas, Dylan Van Baarle. Some real quality, but you just feel that it's going to be 4th place only. And there's Christoph at the back. Well, he's been keeping his powder dry. Not this man. He lit the torch paper quite some time ago, and he is going for it. But the question is, he picks up another second with 7.1 to go. Maybe it's going to be even narrower, the margin by the line. Sagan, at moments like this, do you remember at the World Championships where he picked up that rainbow jersey, Sean? He went hard and he went long and he delivered. It was an outstanding piece of smash and grab, if you like. The hordes were upon him at the very last, and it could well be the same kind of scenario right now, despite these straight roads and indeed a clear view of the hare. The hounds at the moment, what have they got left in their legs? That's the point.
Well, that is the point, and 6.6 kilometres, it's a long road, and this road into the finish, it feels like it goes on forever when you're after covering this distance and racing so hard all day. And Peter Sagan in the World Championships, of course, he put in that explosive attack very close to the finish, but this one is a marathon attack for him, because he's been out here in the breakaway, came across with a number of riders to the original breakaway of the day. Now he's here on his own and having to take it up, with 12, 13 kilometres to finish. He's fighting and he's just giving it everything to hang on. And as you can see, it looks nothing here on their screens, but still he is, just continuing on, and
well, he's being paced by a photographer here. I'm sure there'll be others aggrieved to see this, but just comes out of the wind as if by magic. Cancellara and Van Mark, there have been changing positions, but Van Mark, whenever he takes over, the gap just grows a little bit. It's gone back out with Cancellara now relaying back into the void. 14 seconds it holds, Sean, with 5.7 to go. And as you say, doesn't sound like much, 14 seconds, and in normal circumstances it possibly would be bridgeable, but you don't know what Sagan's got left in terms of determination, heart, and indeed what's left in the legs. He's done a lot of work today. His team were largely absent, it seemed, from protecting him, but they helped him hide, Sean, by taking their turn on the front, and he used them gradually, slowly but surely, and then in the end what he always seems to do is do it for himself. Is he going to deliver, though? 15 seconds is the gap now.
Yes, I think he will hold on. It's possible that he's been, the director sportif has given him the advice, the advantage you've got, he can just maybe knock it back a fraction when he has 17 or 8 seconds, but when it starts to come down, of course, then you have to push on again, and it's going to be a real interesting one now. Is it going to come under the 14 seconds? If it goes down to 10 seconds, well, then we would be saying, I think he's starting to struggle out front, but we're getting closer to the finish. 4.8 to go. It's a situation for Cancellara Van Mark where they're going to start running out of road with the advantage of still at 15 seconds.
Well, it seems that Cancellara, the way it stands at the moment, it goes up to 16, 17 seconds. It seems that Cancellara is not going to make it. An unprecedented 4 victories in Flanders, and of course his career, he's declared, is drawing to a close at the end of this season. Sepp Van Mark will race on, but he's a big man with a big heart, and but is it going to be minor places for him today? Remains to be seen. Bonan, Os and Lutsenko, you're looking at them now as they go under this 5Ks to go banner. 18 seconds is up to now, and now we start to believe in Sagan's capabilities of delivering this. Such a tenuous margin. We thought that Cancellara would be in closing mode. Well, so it has proven, and these guys, I think, now know that this day is not going to belong to them. Unlike Peter Sagan, well, who said the rainbow jersey was a curse? He started winning with it, of course, and it could well be that we get world champion winning the women's race, world champion winning the men's race, and right now that looks like exactly what's going to happen. 18 seconds is the gap as we go up to 3.7 kilometres from home. That says 4. It's a little less than that. The Airbridge man has placed it in the wrong place. In the right place is Sagan. He's going, Sean. He's bidding for glory, and Cancellara must surely know that he's got a lead weight, an anchor on his back in the form of Sepp Van Mark, who's not going to be given to help out too much here, surely. 20 seconds now, Sagan. 21 seconds, 22 seconds. It's extending, Sean.
Yes, well, I think Sepp Van Mark is giving his all. What he's got, he's giving here. I know with Cancellara, it looks like that he's not maybe contributing, but he is. The last number of kilometres, he's been really giving very much. I think he's all. But Sagan, it looks like he's too strong for the two, and that is something. Cancellara, you will be getting time checks, and when you see that Sagan is not slowing down at all, well, then that is going to be very demoralising for the two chasers, especially for Cancellara, because known as a super time trialist, when you cannot close down in the first number of kilometres after the Patersberg, and we can see it's starting to grow out more and more.
3Ks to go. The ticker says 2.8. I think the ticker's right. It's GPS based. 24 seconds he's got now. Peter Sagan is underscoring his greatness, Sean. He's had so much disappointment. He started winning, we remind you, Gent-Wevelgem runner-up, of course, in the E3 and Tirreno Adriatico. But this is going to be an enormous moment in what is still a very young career for this man.
Well, of course, the last 3-4 years we've been talking about Sagan a lot. When he burst onto the scenes 4 or 5 years ago in the Paris-Nice, I think was the first major once where he won 2 stages, and we said this is a rider who is going to win many big classics, and he has struggled in the past years, getting very close, being in the final, but not managed to pull off a big one, a monument, and then of course winning the World Championships last year. Now he's going to go on and win one of the big classics, the Tour of Flanders, and what a way he's won it. He took up the race, took the race into his hands a long ways out, wasn't afraid to go on the attack with Kwiatkowski and Sepp Van Mark. he could have waited, started marking Cancellara, did that waiting game. Because he's a sprinter, sometimes, that is the mentality. But Peter Sagan, no, he just goes out, takes the race by the scruff of the neck, and the way he's winning is chapeau.
Oh, it's unbelievable. 24 seconds the gap. It's holding. He's got 1,800 metres to go. They hit the 2K to go marker. The Flamme Rouge beckons, of course, for Peter Sagan. What an amazing young man, and he is still very much in the centre of his career, and he's standing on a mountain at the moment. He can see where he's been, he can see where he's going, and to be honest, right now the odds are rapidly shortening on this man for the Olympic Games. He'll probably go to Rio and bid for gold. He's a world champion, he'd like to be an Olympic champion, but today, as far as the Low Countries are concerned, he is the king of Flanders, and by a margin of 25 seconds. This is absolutely outstanding. The Flamme Rouge is going to belong to him, and so is the title here, and it couldn't happen, quite frankly, to a bigger star in the firmament of cycling. He's got so many fans, he's edgy, he's hard to read, he's humorous, he's a rock star, Sean, and today this is his stage, and what a performance.
What a performance, and as you said, he is great for cycling because he's that style of guy, a rock star style, and that is good for the sport. I think, to change that image, it has been changing for quite a long time, and to win Tour of Flanders with the rainbow jersey on your back, it must be a great feeling.
Must be an absolutely outstanding feeling, and it's been an outstanding performance by Peter Sagan. The puppy balls to the fore, the crowd goes suitably crazy, and they know that they're welcoming their champion. Fabien Cancellara, he set out to make it 4 victories in the great race. It's going to be denied him by an absolutely supreme talent. The Sagan era is alive and well. More chapters surely to be written, but this page, I think, will be turned down at the corner as an extra special day for an extra special rider. Rock and roll, Peter Sagan, here he comes. That line belongs to him, and it must be so welcome for our world champion. Peter Sagan, chapeau, sir. What about that, Sean? We stand as one, and we welcome home a true champion.
What can you say? It's certainly a true champion, and he has had to wait for a long time to win his first monument, but in what style he has won it. As I mentioned, the way he went out and rode this race in the final, that is Peter Sagan style.
Cancellara finishes second and waves to the crowd and shakes his head. He gave everything he possibly could. Blows his cheeks out. Van Mark crosses the line. Peter Sagan is suitably mobbed by the media, and the race goes on. It's Lars Bohm, is it? No, just coming to the front. It's Alexander Kristoff. Still not done with this. Luke Rowe, I think, is going to have some fun today as well. Kristoff crosses the line. Luke Rowe in 5th place, just ahead, I believe, of Dylan van Baarle. My. What about that, Sean? What a day. What a wrestle. And what a prize fighter we've got who's taken.
Yes, well, what a day's racing has been. It's been, I think we will hear from the riders in the post-race interview how difficult it has been today. We'll read all about it in the next number of days. I think this race has been, one of the most difficult Tour of Flanders the way they've raced from the beginning.
That must feel so good. Where do you set his store, Sean? It's quite remarkable what he has achieved, and he just carries on achieving it.
Well, certainly the way he's went and won this race, you ask your question, where does he go from here? I think there's many a classic left in Peter Sagan.
A couple of seasons ago, Peter Sagan, there were some questions. Everyone thought he'd had a wobble, and maybe he was turning himself into a different kind of rider. He wasn't quite going up the climbs the same. He was changing himself, perhaps. Well, what emerged from that pupae is just quite remarkable, isn't it? He's taken flight, and he's our world champion. He's won Flanders, Sean. He's got to be targeting the Olympic Games.
Well, certainly the Olympic Games, I think that has been mentioned already. The rest of the season, of course, you know, the classic campaign is going to be there. A wobble, I don't think, yes, we could see there the way he done the wheelie. There was certainly no wobble there after 255 kilometres.
Amazing. Well, he's a showman, and we're so glad to have him. Is Fabian Cancellara, who has emptied himself in the last Flanders race of his career, and the emotions are coming to the fore as well, Sean. No surprise.
Well, I think Cancellara will be us thinking of, you know, what way he tactically rode the race, you know, allowing Sagan, Kwiatkowski, Van Mark to slip up the road in a vital point of the race. That was a surprise to me, considering he had, you know, very few teammates left with him, and it's a normal thing that a lot of the riders, you know, will just try and follow and not contribute in the work with Cancellara and with his teammate. And then he made a big effort on the Oude Quaremont. He made an unbelievable effort to come across, and came across very close to getting to Sagan, but just not able to do that. So I feel if he had been up there from the beginning, that he could have maybe had a different final of this race.
You know, we've had some great tales told
today.
Here he is,
as a world champion, to win the 100 Tour of Flanders. How does that feel? Simple question.
I feel very good. I'm very happy, and yeah, it was super hard, the race from the start until the finish. Always full gas, and yeah, I had a little bit problem from after 100 kilometers. I had to change both wheels because I broken wheel, and yeah, it was a lot of crashes. And I thank you for all the team, because they did very great job. And yeah, we have to think also about two guys what died last week. And yeah, it's very sad, but I want to dedicate this to them. And yeah, also Maciej Bodnar had a very bad crash yesterday in the training. It was a very big unluck for him. He didn't race today, but I want to tell I want to wish him the good heal, and we'll see back in the group soon.
It's not often that we see you speechless after a victory. You've won a monument now. Next week there's another one, Paris-Roubaix. You might do the double. It's been done before.
I'm very happy also for this, and now I want to have fun after this big victory. And next week, we think next week, not now.
You have your sprint, yet you wanted to finish alone. Explain.
Sorry?
You have your sprint, yet you wanted to finish alone.
No, the race was very hard today, and yeah, it's very hard to work with another guys, because nobody don't want to work with me, and then it's always better to drop everybody. I think it's not easy. Huh?
Many congratulations, awesome win.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Terrific. I think that sums it up, Sean. He's a man such as yourself that nobody wanted to work with, and in the end you just got to do it yourself.
Well, it's the sure way to win,
and that's precisely what Peter Sagan has done here in the 100th Tour of Flanders. Sagan finishes ahead of Cancellara, Sepp van Mark. Christophe came in fourth ahead of Luke Rowe. Dylan van Baarle in sixth place. All great riders, but one king of them all. King of the hills and the cobbles. Well, Sean, we're expecting rain late on. The storm clouds are gathering, but lightning has already struck here.
Certainly have, and it struck very early today. Luckily for the riders, I think it's good to see that they got dry conditions.
Don't forget, of course, we've got Paris-Roubaix and plenty of other cycling to come here on Eurosport. We thank you for your company today. Quite an outstanding race with an outstanding champion. My goodness, you have to catch your breath on occasion. Even Peter Sagan, a little breathless and and struggling for thoughts, I think, and just a sort of.
De klok rijdt dan Fabian Cancellara, dan ben je de enige die deze ronde van Vlaanderen verdient te winnen.
Ze waren met z'n tweeën dan nog in de achtervolging. Hè. Ik denk dat ook Sepp van Marken. Ja, het overgewicht was wel Cancellara, maar Van Marken heeft gedaan wat hij kon om toch nog maar secondjes terug dichter te komen, maar dat lukte niet. Maar ik denk dat de beste 3 renners op het podium staan. Dat is absoluut duidelijk. En het is eigenlijk Sagan die geanticipeerd heeft. En die als topfavoriet eigenlijk